Hello, I'm Dean Heather Duda, and welcome to Voice of Rio. Today we're going to be talking with two of our senior honor students about their experiences here at Rio and their upcoming presentations. Stay tuned. The honor senior presentations. One of my favorite things in the spring since I've been director of the honors program is to highlight the wonderful research and scholarship that the senior students have been doing. In the fall, they put together a portfolio and do a project of their choosing, and that project can be anything on any topic that interests them. Many students work with something in their major, but that's not always a requirement. And then the spring part of the seminar is to present to the campus community. And this is a pretty substantial presentation. Seniors have to do about a 20 to 30-minute presentation with a visual aid, and then field about 15 or 20 minutes of questions and answers from their audience. And the audience is made up of a wide variety of students, faculty, staff, community members, and sometimes even family members. This can be a daunting experience, so the honors program tries to do its best to prepare our students for these upcoming projects and presentations. And we'll talk to a couple students in a moment and see if the program's successful and how they feel about their presentation. If you don't know about the honors program, the Rio Grande Honors Program is open to all students here at Rio Grande with a 3.25 GPA if they're current students, or certain ACT GPA and class ranking if they're incoming freshmen. The honors program has three components to it. I mentioned the senior component, but before they get there, honors students usually, although that can be done simultaneously, take a general ed curriculum that is designed for honors students, usually interdisciplinary examinations of various topics like humanities or social sciences. There's a service learning class that students take. Students do an applied fine arts class, so they have to do something creative. This is an opportunity for students to maybe learn about digital photography or sing in the grand chorale. Or even, as I always say, you always want to learn to play the tuba. This is your opportunity to do so. Also, honor students do 4 one-credit seminars. These are outside-the-box learning experiences on a wide variety of topics. Some recent seminars have been the pursuit of happiness, where students have learned about what is happiness and how do you incorporate that into your life. During presidential election years, we tend to do a presidential election seminar. And right now, students can either learn about marketing classical music or healthcare through the lens, which is healthcare in film and television. So the program is designed to give students a very interdisciplinary examination in an academic setting. It is ideal for students who are looking at a different learning experience. Again, that more critical thinking, communication-focused, hands-on learning environment. And I think I've said enough about the honors program. I think it's time to let the students themselves speak. So I'd like to welcome my first guest, Chloe. Chloe is a business major here, and you have an accounting area of interest, correct?
Yes, accounting major, yes.
Yes, and Chloe is one of our seniors, and she is going to tell us a little bit about her presentation and what her project is this semester.
Yes, so initially I didn't have a title in mind, to be completely honest. I came up with the title maybe 4 weeks ago, but at the beginning of the summer I knew that I wanted to encompass 3 components in a presentation about financial empowerment. And those 3 are financial literacy and education. And the second is collaborative economics, and the third is creating opportunities through entrepreneurship. So the financial education literacy part of it is finding the direct correlation between financial education and financial behaviors. Studies show that the less financial education you have, one, to begin with, you're not financial literate, and it's more than likely that you won't be making the best financial decisions for yourself. Finding a direct correlation between financial education and financial behaviors. And the second is collaborative economics, and it's an old concept, but sort of a new name. It's also known as group economics, and essentially that is tying together resources throughout a community to tackle inefficiencies. So while I may have something that you need, you can reach out to me instead of going out to get it yourself and struggling and trying to work your way up. So a lot of people see it as networking across as well instead of networking upwards. And the last component is creating opportunities through entrepreneurship. And you'll see that with the incoming or growing up generations, specifically millennials, how they get into self-employment as well as starting their own businesses instead of going off and working for a Fortune 500 company as their parents might want them to.
That is a lot going on in that presentation. Yes, and you are able to describe them so well.
Yes, it's not as condensed because I'll be able to explain and give examples over the course of 25 to 30 minutes. So I think it'll be interesting and very informative, not only for older people, but young people as well. I think a lot of people at different ages would benefit. And I also think that it would give a look into what goes on in the mindset of a young millennial.
Now, how did you come to this topic?
To be completely honest, I know that where I come from, we don't talk about money management a lot. So not only is it hard to make money, but it's a little more hard to manage it, especially if you don't have that background, or if your parents don't have that background, they're not equipped to educate you in that area. I realized we learn how to count money at a young age, but that's sort of where the education system leaves off. It's just recognizing the value of money monetarily and not what you can really do with that money. As far as financial freedom, the entire project encompassed, I was listening to a song, and the song is by Jay-Z. It is, I can't remember the name of it. It's off of his most recent album, and it sort of hit me as I was sitting on my couch stressing this summer about what I was going to present. Not really stressing, but just trying to figure out a topic. And I said, I can talk about what I have an interest in, which is financial education. I hope to at some point create a program to empower people through financial education, specifically young girls in the public school system. So, and that's where everything sort of tied in. Last semester, in the fall of 2017, I took a class, Small Business Entrepreneurship, and I realized that a lot of opportunities are created through opening your own business or working for yourself, as well as it's also a way to get very involved in your community and keep money at a local level.
You mentioned that you're very interested in sort of taking this into the public schools for, specifically, as you mentioned, young women. Do you feel like that is a group that often does not, what you've mentioned that it's financial literacy happens quite in pockets, so it's not a major push in the school system. Do you feel like on top of that, young girls also experience a little less than even what might be the norm? I
want to choose my words carefully here, but I think as we get older, girls get sort of pushed out of the business sector. So we're taught about money, and then just from there, we're sort of expected to go into these gender-specific professions, being a nurse or providing in the service industry where you are sort of nurturing people. Whereas when I got to college, me saying I was an accounting major, there would be times where I was the only girl, not only girl in the class, but the only female accounting major in that class, or the only black person in an accounting class. So I just realized that we sort of get pushed out of that area, or we push ourselves out, depending on the way you want to look at it. But I think it's important to put a heavy emphasis on that, especially with young women.
Great. Now, you've talked about sort of the end. We've been talking about the end of the honors program. Can you talk a little bit about maybe some things that you did through your first few years in the honors program that prepared you for the senior project and presentation?
Specifically relating to the senior project, or a focus of mine that I want to talk on, excuse me, is, sorry, I said I wanted to create a financial education program, and I realized that through taking the service learning class with Dr. Sparks, and realizing that a lot of young women are sort of pushed into marginalized pockets in different areas as far as education, healthcare, and I realized I could do something with my degree and hopefully give back. But something that helped me to prepare for my actual presentation is I remember going to one of the senior presentations with Sam Prophet. I think she was talking about desensitization and violence that we see in media and just surrounding us. And this was maybe 3 or 4 years ago before it became a major topic. And seeing her and talking to her and Claire Marie about what led up to their presentation really helped me get an idea of what to expect.
So you knew early on that this project was coming, which did allow you to do some preparation work over the summer.
Yes, it did.
So what's next for you? You've got this great project, and you've got clearly a long-term entrepreneurial idea of your own. What happens to get you there?
To get me here to this point.
To get you to that goal of the entrepreneurship that you're hoping. Will you jump right into that after graduation, or do you think there'll be something before that?
I think I still have a lot to learn. Obviously, I don't know everything, and accounting is different from personal finance, so I do want to eventually take courses in finance and in different ways of money management. I'd like to expand my education, but as far as life after college, I'm not quite sure. I'll let you know when I figure out. But I have a internship in God Bless with a small business. He's a tax preparer, and just watching him interact with people that he knows on a first name basis when preparing their taxes, it was very eye-opening to me compared to where some people go to like H&R or Jackson Hewitt to get their taxes done. And I mean, you're in and out pretty quickly, and they don't really take an interest in your personal life. But seeing him work and develop a relationship with these people and sort of make recommendations, because people don't, they come to him to get their taxes done or handle things that they don't want to do for themselves or can't even. Seeing that sort of encouraged me to open a small business.
That's great.
Later in life. And use this opportunity, this presentation, to sort of talk about creating opportunity for entrepreneurship.
I can tell that you're going to do a great job with the question and answer part of your presentation. I have one more question for you. If you could go back in a time machine to your freshman self, what's your biggest piece of advice you'd give your freshman self?
Oh, ease up on the bangs. I don't know. I had a horrible bangs my freshman year. But academically, I'd have to tell myself, just keep doing what you're doing. I was doing a great job my freshman year. There's a lot to be learned. Don't think you know everything, because you know nothing. And take everything as a learning opportunity for yourself. So
that sounds like some good advice.
Yeah, in hindsight, everyone's an expert.
Thank you so much for being a guest. I'm looking forward to your presentation. I'll talk a little bit more about that here after I say goodbye, but thank you so much for coming on the show. And you've done such wonderful work here at Rio, and we'll be glad to see you walk across that stage in a couple of months.
Me too. Thank you for having me.
Chloe Nared is the first of the 5 honors presentations. The honors presentations happen every Monday, starting Monday, March 12th. They are 4 to 5 in Woodhall, room 115 here on campus. Light refreshments are provided. We have the presentation schedule up there. And as you can see, Chloe is first. They will be 5 consecutive Mondays. So we're starting, I just spoke with our first presenter. I'm about to speak with our final presenter. Stephany Davies is with me. Stephany is a chemistry major. Hello, welcome to the program.
Hi, Dr. Duda.
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing pretty well. It's pretty busy, but I'm looking forward to spring break.
You know, second semester senior year is always a busy time.
Yeah, and you're fighting senioritis too.
You are, and then, you know, the honors director makes you go and do a 20 to 30 minute presentation.
Oh man, I know. She's a slave driver, really.
That's what I hear. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your presentation and your project?
Yeah, so I'm doing a presentation on phyto extraction. It's a big fancy science word for using plants to pull heavy metals out of the ground. And that's basically what all my project is. I'm testing Canada Wild Rye to see if it can accumulate, gather a lot of arsenic and lead.
Why those 2 pollutants in particular?
Arsenic specifically has been found in well waters in Appalachia, specifically central Appalachia, West Virginia, Kentucky area, in fairly worryingly high levels. And so it's fairly carcinogenic. It gives you cancer of the everything if you have enough. So it's getting that out of the water, getting that out of the environment is really important, and so finding things that can help do that is necessary.
And is lead in well water in addition to arsenic? Are they both found?
Lead's a more common pollutant,
okay.
And it's more from mine tailings when the byproducts of mining are left in the environment. They can degrade and release heavy metals into the water and into the environment as well.
And is this unique? I know mining is definitely something that happens a lot in this region, but have you chosen 2 pollutants that are rather unique and prevalent to specifically the Appalachian area?
No, not really. Lead and arsenic are pretty bad in general. And so there's been a lot of research on them, but there hasn't been a whole lot of research on getting them out of Appalachia, out of our land.
Okay, great. And why Canadian Wild Rye?
There was a study done by the University of Cincinnati in cooperation with somebody else. I forget what the institution was, but Canadian Wild Rye was shown to perform very well with breaking down organic pollutants, and a lot of the issues with pollution, and especially some of our Appalachian pollution, is complex pollution. So where you'll have mixed organic and heavy metal pollutants. So if this plant can do well with heavy metals, also, then it could be used in situations where there's mixed pollution.
Okay. Were there other plants that would do the same, and if so, why the wild rye in particular?
Yeah, there were 6 grasses tested, but wild rye was the only one that did a really good job. Okay. Some of the other grasses performed well as well, but due to experimental limitations, I could only test 1.
So you actually chose which grass to test. You're not continuing a project that has already been established by another student.
No, I'm not. One of the other chemistry majors is also doing a solo thing that they're starting. Or the 3rd chemistry major, we've got 3, is working on a continuing project that the university is a part of.
Do you think that this will become a continuing project? Somebody will pick up from your research this semester and move forward with it?
Yeah, I hope so. I really do. It would be interesting to see if I could continue it myself past undergraduate, see if I could get into some sort of research, but who knows.
And you mentioned this as a solo project, so how did you come to it? Why this project? What drew you to this topic?
Growing up here, you hear a lot about coal pollution and coal jobs and fossil fuels and things like that, and I was interested in how those affect the environment and how those affect our land, the land we live on, the air we breathe and the water that we drink. And in researching this, and especially looking into phyto extraction and phytoremediation technologies in general, I was interested in it. It spoke to me, Dr. Duda.
Good research projects usually do, because it does allow for more engagement and you get excited about what you find.
Yeah, I'm really interested in seeing how the plant performs.
Now, I have a question for you, because I know with your project took more time, so you did a lot of the background research in the fall, and you're doing the actual on-the-ground research now, the trial and error. Yes. So let me ask you something. What happens if you find that the Canadian Wild Rye doesn't perform as you're expecting? Do you consider that a failed project, or is there still something to be gained from just the process of trial and error?
Well, for one, it will have been tested, and there's specific plants that are good at phyto extraction. They hyperaccumulate the metals, and so what I'm doing is testing to see if this plant hyperaccumulates, and if it does, then that's good, and it means we've got a plant that's native to the area that we can use. But if it doesn't, then that just means we have to test more plants. They're fairly rare, so while I'm hopeful, I'm not expecting.
Is that often what scientists who are doing the research you're doing, do they go in with a hypothesis and recognize that, failure is definitely a possibility here, but that is part of the excitement of the research?
Yeah, so the kind of research I'm doing is called exploratory investigation rather than hypothesis-based testing. So people in grade school and even lower level college courses will talk about hypothesis-based investigation and talk about how you have to have this plan for how this is going to turn out, and you have to test this plan. But a lot of science, especially the science where you're just trying to find new things, is more exploratory based. It's more can this, not will this.
It seems like a very exciting kind of research that you can find really interesting results through just picking a project, asking a research question, and giving it a try.
Yeah, it's for my research, I was a little bit worried about getting a project that hadn't been done before, getting some investigative, some research question that hadn't been asked before, because science has been around for a while, and we've asked a lot of questions. So I'm really excited to be doing something, maybe not necessarily novel, but certainly investigating a new plant, at least.
Great. Now tell me, I know we don't have very much time left, but tell me what happens next? Where are you going after graduation here in a couple of months?
Yeah, so I'm going to be going into industry. I'm going to be working as a chemist somewhere in Ohio. I'm not totally sure Columbus is my first choice, but who knows? And then from there we'll see. I might go to grad school. I might just stay and maybe pick up some community stuff.
That's great. And what has driven you to have a career where you really want to give back?
Some of the issues with science are that we can feel disconnected from the public, from people just kind of on the street, and I know that my family can often feel like I'm just kind of talking at them and not talking to them and having a dialogue with them. And so doing science that directly benefits communities and directly benefits my family and my friends and the people that live around me and all over the world is a way to make science more relatable, I think.
I think that's absolutely true, and that is so admirable. So I'll ask you the same question I asked Chloe. If you had a time machine and could go back to your younger student self, what advice would you give yourself academically?
I'd say listen to your mom and get the diagnosis. I won't go into details, but I have a mental issue that's been kind of plaguing me throughout college, and this last semester, I found something that really helped with me, and I wouldn't have found that without getting the diagnosis.
Good advice, very good advice. So I am so excited to see the results of your experiment. I'm really looking forward to hearing about the project on April 9th, right? I have the right date?
Yes, that is the correct date. I mean, that's what you told me, so.
I believe that was just on the poster, yes,
Yeah.
April 9th. And I'm really excited to watch you walk across that stage here in May and see what you do next, because I think it'll be exciting. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Well, thank you. That's our show for the day. I'm hoping that some of you will come out and check out our senior presentations. Watch the Facebook page, because we have Stephany possibly and maybe another honor student whose presentations will be at least partially streamed live, if not entirely streamed live. So be watching the Rio Facebook page for more information on that. Thank you for another 30 minutes of your time here with Voice of Rio.